The history books of Myrtle Beach Speedway have closed, but a track never dies in sim racing. While city development forced the closure of this historic half mile, there's no shortage of short track drivers and leagues that keep the storied track alive, even if only virtually. Welcome to Pit Stop TV in the virtual Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. My name is Adrian Cardinale IV. It's a pleasure to join you for coverage of Lucky Motorsports Street Stocks by Elevated Performance. Tonight's coverage is brought to you by Elevated Performance, Lucky Motorsports Solutions, Whiplash Sim Cams, and of course CC's Business. We are in for a treat, I think is a good way to put it. Myrtle Beach is such a fantastic racetrack, and it's such a shame that it recently closed, but as mentioned, we of course have it alive thanks to sim racing and can go racing here this evening. This place is so cool, and even on iRacing it's so special. And of course it begins with the track map. There's a lot to talk about just in this little half-mile track map. The fact that the front stretch is bowed, I think, is this track's most unique feature, but the wide sweeping corners, the backstretch wall that kind of caves down over the racetrack a little bit. There's so many different characteristics that make this place that much more unique, that much more special, that much more interesting. And I mean, just the track surface itself, it's so worn out, it's so gritty and difficult to drive on, so it lacks so much grip. It's such a cool place. I can't say that enough. It's such a cool place to have any kind of racing, and street stocks especially this evening I think are going to be a lot of fun. We'll get right down to it. This is race 15 of 16 this season for the Lucky Motorsports Street Stocks, brought to you by Elevated Performance. And so far, elevating above the rest has been Tim George until last week at Martinsville Speedway. Finally usurped for the points lead. Zach Schucker will take over the top position coming into this week. Now, the top three have all clinched their way into the final four, and there's some extra details here on this points graphic that we haven't seen yet this season. Seed number one for the final four is set by the driver with the most wins. In this case, Tim George has 3. Michael Melvin also has 3 wins. However, he's not here this evening and therefore is out. So long as Michael Melvin does not connect within the next, 10 minutes or so, Tim George has officially clinched the top position. However, he's not even here this evening, which means we're going to see a very different kind of race. Tim's getting locked in, Melvin's getting locked in. Melvin won't be racing for a championship next week, Tim will be. In addition, Zach Schucker, who has recently taken over the points lead, along with David Levine, they are both locked into the final four. So effectively, in short term, the only position open is 4th place, because second, third, and fourth, seeds 2, 3, and 4 are set by points. So the next 3 highest driver in the points, no matter where they are in relation to the driver with the most wins. So that means Zach and David, they're clinched. Tyler has the position for now by 18 points over Addison Cook. I believe Addison is the only driver with a realistic opportunity, as only 12 drivers have made the trip to the virtual Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So I don't even know if Addison will have enough opportunity coming into this race. I think, given the car count, it's going to lock Tyler Langenberg into the final four at Southern National next week. And we'll talk more about these points. We can talk about the schedule as well. Myrtle Beach, round 15, February 20th. Next week, we head on out to Southern National, and that's that. It all comes down to a wrap. Now, there are plans for a special exhibition race on the 11th of March. So that's a Monday as opposed to a Tuesday, just about 2 weeks after the conclusion of the season. But we'll get there when we get there. For now, we're just getting through Southern National. That's next week. This is the one cutoff race of the season. Practice is coming to a close here in about 2 minutes. And we do have, as I mentioned, a shortage of cars, which we have not had at all this season. We've had strong fields. This is an oddity. And while Myrtle Beach is a little bit niche, it's interesting that a couple of drivers in our lineup actually don't have the track. They're not making it here this evening, but we do have Travis Sukup back in attendance this week out of the great state of Florida, the interesting state of Florida. Zach Shucker, of course, here this evening in car number 48. Scott Myers is here. He's third in practice so far. How about Traber Burns out of the Northwest? Addison Cook out of the middle of nowhere, Virginia. Brandon Marshall's here with us. Joey Tackett here in the 3 car. David Levine in the 59, a little bit off pace. Wyatt Roberts from Club, Ohio in car 42. Tyler Langenberg likely going to take up that last position in the Final Four for the championship next week. Will have just the same opportunity to win the championship as the other 3. He's here this evening along with Kevin O'Hara in car 29 and Jack Gunsett in car 73. You can see a 19-9 even for Travis Sukup here in practice. Now the track is rather cool. Track temps 68 degrees, air temp 64.4, about as cool and overcast as we could possibly get for this race. So grip levels are certainly high. If you go back to the track map, the world record for a street stock here has been beaten by quite a bit, which leads me to believe that street stocks haven't been here in a while, because the street stock record is a 20.462, more than half a second behind Travis Sukup's time in qualifying. In other words, for street stocks, these guys are flying. Crushing lap records by a half second or more. And that is practice, meaning qualifying, of course, is up next. We can take a look at our Whiplash SimCam's race details. 65 laps with a stage break in there. We'll have 1 required pit stop. And, of course, have those 3 green and white checkers if we need them, have damage healing enabled. It's all the same usual components of an LMS street stock race on a Tuesday evening. We're glad that you're here watching along this evening. A big shout out to our partners here at the channel: Whiplash Media SimCams, ATVO, CC's Business. Of course, a big shout out to Lucky Motorsports Solutions, Elevated Performance, all allowing us to make these broadcasts possible. Cars heading out to the racetrack. One of the first onto the racetrack is car 45, Travis Sukup. He'll be slow here out of the pit lane, and other cars are more quickly up to speed. Addison Cook drifting through 1 and 2. That's not the way you lock yourself into the Final Four. There's Joey Tackett across the line. First driver to set a time. Brandon Marshall follows quickly. And everybody's going to start flowing through as qualifying officially gets started here. There's Scott Myers, was fantastic at Wilkesboro a couple of weeks ago. That was a big misstep, though, in qualifying. Langenberg in a lap 2. Trying to punch his name into the Final Four, and it's likely going to happen regardless of this qualifying effort, but Langenberg across the line. Is he going to go further up? He is, by 1 spot, up to 5th position over Scott Myers. And Addison Cook, it was a mishap lap 1, a messy first lap, but he goes to pole position. Travis Sukup will go to 3rd. Zach Shucker into 2nd, but he's got 1 more opportunity around the speedway, this time by deep into turn 3, right on the inside wall. And driver 48 to the line, gets the wall. That's his run done. David Levine, this will begin his run. So first flying lap underway. Conservative there out of turn 2, working right down to the wall in 3 and 4. And driver 59 will wrap up lap 1. A bit off in practice. Let's see what he's got in qualifying. 20.3 first lap out. That's 10th quick. Now he's got a win already this season, locked in for this evening. Really not a worry in the world, but let's see what he can do. Lap number 2. The start-finish line, car 5-9. David Levine picks up a 20.188. That puts him 7th quick. And that is all cars across the line for their qualifying efforts. Kevin O'Hara, the only other driver in his car. He just hasn't quite escaped yet. But Addison Cook will take pole position by about a half-tenth, otherwise 5/100ths of a second, over Zach Schucker. Now, word on the street is Addison Cook feels good coming into this race. He feels like he can go and put his best on the racetrack. Problem is, back to that car count conversation, if we go through the unofficial qualifying results here, doesn't look too crazy here in your top 10, but when we flip over to page number 2, just 12 drivers this evening, it might not be enough points available for Addison Cook to transfer his way into the Final Four at Southern National next week for the championship. Meanwhile, as we wait for qualifying officially to come to a close, we're going to take a step aside and be right back for the beginning of round 15 of 16. Welcome back to the virtual Myrtle Beach Speedway round 15. Just about to begin. Out of 16 races, race number 15 takes us to the now closed Myrtle Beach Speedway in virtual Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Good to be here and to have you all watching along with us as Addison Cook will lead us to the green flag this evening. The field getting ready to roll out of the iRacing.com pit lane. Say that, it's the Elevated Performance pit lane. Let's roll through your starting grid on position number 1, otherwise pole position, Addison Cook, car 07, out of the middle of nowhere, Virginia, doing everything he needs to do. It might not be enough to move into the Final Four, but he's going to give it a shot. He'll start from pole position this evening. Starting from the second spot, Zach Schucker, new points leader. Looks like he'll extend that, possibly, if everything goes right this evening. Starting from third place, though, Travis Sukup, car 45, Traber Burns from the fourth position. Starting fifth, Wyatt Roberts, car 42, new to the scene, but has picked up quickly. Brandon Marshall will roll off from the sixth position. Starting seventh, David Levine in car 59, did not make it to the grid. And Joey Tackett will start from eighth. Tyler Langenberg, Scott Myers rounds out your top 10. Jack Gunsett and Kevin O'Hara then will round out your field. 12 cars in all. Let's remind you of the weather conditions for this race. 64.1 degrees, and they're only going to cool down as the evening goes by. Might not cool down a ton under 64, but it's going to be right around there, I think, for the entirety of this race. Real cool track temperatures. Tires won't be taking a ton of heat is compared to some other races we've had this season. Whiplash SimCam's race details. It's a pretty cut and dry 65-lap race. One stage break in about the halfway portion of this event. One required pit stop, up to 3 green-white checkers, and damage healing enabled. Coming around to the restart zone, waiting on the green flag. Connection problem there for Addison Cook. It's going to bungle everybody up, but we are green at Myrtle Beach. Lap 1, dead even as they come around to the stripe, and to take lap number 1, Addison Cook with the race lead. Zach Shucker way up the racetrack that time for lap 2. Sukup will take that spot through the inside. Wyatt Roberts gets loose, and the whole field now strings out with David Levine back in position number 12, well off the pace. And spinner, that is car 42, Wyatt Roberts. They might leave it green. Jack Gunsick gets a piece of the conversation. Trying to keep the race green. There's the caution. And Addison Cook will just hang on to the race lead. Take a look back as to what happened for the 42 car. Wyatt Roberts, bottom side of the racetrack. That's that green and yellow machine. Just comes up the track, gets a piece of Traber Burns' door. Jack Gunsitt, meanwhile, was already backwards and just came right on through. On board now for Gunsitt. And he was actually, I think, getting loose. Ended up getting spun the rest of the way around by the 3 car. And takes a rather unique line down the front stretch. Prompts a caution along with the spin, of course, for car 42. And already down to the pit lane and grabbing tires is David Levine and Wyatt Roberts. Roberts up on the jacks. That's right side's going to go for 4 as well, it looks like, as the iRacing.com pace car comes around. And he will lose a lap. David Levine, meanwhile, his data is not loading because he started from the pit lane. However, car 59 does, for the moment, have the pit stop of the race, even though the graphic isn't loading. 21.8 seconds on that pit stop as he took 4 tires. So a reminder back to the point situation for Addison Cook. Taking the green flag this evening, Zach Shucker, David Levine, Tim George are all clinched in. They are in the Final 4 race next week. Racing for a championship, reset to 0, going to find it out. Tyler Langenberg, I believe, has clinched that position as well. Even if Addison Cook somehow made up the points, I think Tyler would have a race to fall back on. So for now, we are going to assume that car 91, of course, takes home the 4th seed. We're back around to the restart zone one more time. Drivers have chosen their lanes, green flag back in the air, and problems again for the 07's connection. Addison Cook was quick in qualifying, but Travis Sukup was a whole lot quicker in practice, and he's bringing that speed right back to the front. Second place, defending, though, over the 48 car and getting crossed up into turn number 1. Opens the door wide for Shucker to go through, and now for Traber Burns' crash on the backstretch. Caution will fly. And that was all started up by the corner that was missed by the 45 car. Of course, no real fault of his own, but, excuse me, that corner being missed by the 45 is what starts all of this. He's going to go wide down into turn 3. Well, I say wide. The car ends up going up the racetrack anyways, and we just got real close together there with the 541 and the 71 on corner exit. Of course, Traber was trying to compensate for the car on his outside, that being Travis Sukup, and Brandon Marshall didn't quite get the memo. And they just ran out of room right there. And Traber could have been up the racetrack a little more. Wasn't much that Brandon could have done. But the fact of the matter is, the 541 got turned around, and we have a caution. So Traber Burns works down the pit lane. He will be joining Brandon Marshall, who is pitted this time around, and Tyler Langenberg, who does not yet have the elevated performance pit stop of the race. So Roberts has pitted. Here's Traber Burns, getting his required pit stop out of the way. And if they have to pit for tires, this now knocks 5 out of 12 cars off of the list that have to pit. But I think a couple of them may want to come back in later, even if just for left or right sides, as Traber will be right on the cusp of losing a lap as the choose happens in the background. David Levine still with the elevated performance pit stop of the race, 21.8 seconds. But up front, Addison Cook has chosen the bottom of the racetrack. Zach Shucker the outside. Travis Sukup down low. Joey Tackett up high. Then Scott Myers down low. And David Levine up top in car 59. Back around the restart zone for the third time this evening. Addison Cook on the loud pedal. We're back green at Myrtle Beach. David Levine scrapes the inside wall, nearly into a crash, as Wyatt Roberts is turned around in the back of the field. Jack Gunsit now slow, but we stay green for the time being. Addison Cook out front, Travis Sukup second place. And you best believe the 48 car is trying to join that, as we've got cars all over the place into turn 3. Kevin O'Hara up the racetrack. Brandon Marshall going to make a pass. And that 71 car is on 2 brand new tires as Addison Cook goes purple from the race lead. Thought the 45 might have something for Addison earlier in this race. But as some laps get turned, the 07, well, I was going to say the 07 looks better and better until that contact to the wall. Travis Sukup now right on the back end of car 07. I believe Sukup is still winless this season. Addison Cook winless as well. But a big difference in how many races these two drivers have each run. Sukup has been here for about half the season. Addison Cook hasn't missed a race. Finally got a pole position this evening, and he's trying to hang on to it at Myrtle Beach. Almost gets used up out of turn 4. And just hangs on to the race lead for a lap more. That might do it, though. Yeah, that's Travis Sukup on by, I believe. And, oh, real loose. Out of turn 2 was the 07. But Sukup has taken that spot away, and Zach Shucker wants to follow through. There's only so much that Addison can do here. He went purple, and then immediately these two drivers got up on him. He made a small mistake, and that just allowed them both to catch. If anything, he's got to sit here now, maybe save his tires a little bit, and get ready for after the stage break. I'd even want to take 2 tires. Sukup a little free out of turn 2 that time. Zach Shucker finally got a win this season at North Wilkesboro. We had some broadcast technical difficulties. Couldn't make the show. But the 48 showed up, and he's showing up here again at Myrtle Beach. Right on through for position 1. Sukup just lets him go. And Zachary Shucker has found something in this street stock as the season has gone by. puts it to good use. Lap led there across the stripe as Tackett fights with Scott Myers. This is for 4th and 5th positions. David Levine just behind in 6th. His tires have moved him up through the field a nice ways, but he's still got a long ways to go if he wants to get a second win on the season. If you check back in on the Tyler Langenberg story, he is 10th spot. Again, has enough points coming into this race to go ahead and just lock up that 4th position, it looks like, but not going out of the regular season the way he wanted to so far back here with Kevin O'Hara and others. That was nearly a move, though, in turn 1 for the race lead. Zach Shucker, the defending car. That's Travis Sukup trying to take the spot away. And each of these cars is dancing around a bit as we've got a stopped car on the racetrack out of turn 2. This is Kevin O'Hara. The leaders are coming right around. And Addison Cook is having more and more connection difficulties as this race wears on. Now Tackett's dropped down the order. He's racing for the 6th position, trying to hang on to it over Brandon Marshall. This off into turn 1 as they begin lap 27. And our leaders are getting back to it. This is why racing at Myrtle Beach is so heavily missed. You've got these different battles across the racetrack. We're flipping between them to try and show everything that's going on. There's this fight here for the 6th spot. Brandon Marshall and Joey Tackett. Traber Burns even in that fight. Then back up to the front. Our top 2 are going after it. We're coming up to the halfway break. There's a lap car ahead. 3rd place isn't far back. And these 2 didn't even qualify on pole. They've qualified 2nd and 3rd, admittedly. But they've used a little more long-run speed versus the pole sitter speed, and they have driven up into the positions they hold. Beginning lap 30, that halfway caution could come out at any point in time. As we have this battle, well, there it is. Caution. So, of course, no cause for this yellow, and if we had stage points, they would all, well, most of them, the lion's share anyways, would go to Zach Shucker, who leads to the stage. Jack Gunstick goes straight down the pit lane. Pits were not open for the 73 car, but they are for everybody else, as Zach Shucker will lead the group down to the pits. You see a couple of cars staying out. Those are those drivers that had pitted earlier, David Levine, Brandon Marshall. Looks like everybody else is going to try and pit this time around. Zach Shucker, Travis Sukup, Addison Cook, all of your race leaders to this point coming in for at least tires. Remember, you have to make at least a tire change each race. It could be 2 tires, it could be 4 tires, it doesn't matter. You see all the jacks going up. You have to use at least 2 change tires. Shucker down and away, Sukup down and away, and Addison Cook down and away. They all took 2 tires as Jack Gunstick comes out in the middle of all of it. Now you have those guys going for 4. Traber Burns. Wyatt Roberts back here might do 2 down and away. No, he's going to do 4. Joey Tackett, it looks like, does 4 down and away, along with Burns, along with Langenberg. And Wyatt Roberts is still waiting on the left side of the jack. He drops, and now Kevin O'Hara will race out of the pit lane and break a couple of rules to get back onto the lead lap. Well, through that fun cycle, we now have a fastest 4-tire stop. And so your elevated performance pit stop of the race goes to Kevin O'Hara, a 20.97 second stop. He's had a few of these this season. Kevin's going to grab himself a bonus point unless somebody can pit for 4 tires a little bit faster. And so with that trip down the elevated performance pit lane wrapped up, David Levine will choose the outside lane as the race leader. He gets that choice, as does everybody else, but for the most part, they keep it pretty tame. Although Addison Cook did elect to go to the top side as opposed to the bottom. So he'll restart 6th effectively when he could have restarted 5th. The whole field works around turns 3 and 4. Maybe the final restart of the race. We'll see. Into the restart zone, and green flag once again at Myrtle Beach. A big bobble on the restart. Brandon Marshall, Travis Sukup, and Zach Shucker down low. A little bit of contact shared around out of turn 2, out of turn 3 and 4. It's a few more smiles, though, as everybody gets these tires at the temperature and gets set back into race mode. Marshall trying to defend for 2nd, and it might work for now, but those tires right behind the whole top 3 from the first stint of the race is knocking on the door of the 71 car. And now the 59, as Levine's going to open the door to turn 1. His tires have gone away. 32 laps on the 59's Hoosier tires. He's deep into turn 3, trying to defend over these couple of spots. But as Brandon Marshall takes that top position away, so too does Zach Shucker go on by the 59 car, but Travis Sukup was nearly all up over those cornflakes through turn 1. That was a little bit scary for a moment. Addison Cook makes a pass. So Brandon Marshall now the only car on old tires ahead of the leaders, and Zach Shucker will do some work to dispatch of that 71 car as quickly as possible. Not so fast, says Brandon Marshall. He hangs on the outside of the 48 car for a moment, but gets cleared up out of turn 4 as these new tires can commit to power so much more quickly. That's another great thing about Myrtle Beach. It eats tires up. It really makes you conserve your rubber, or makes you come down and get new tires and go and try it all over again, as David Levine is getting swallowed up by the cars behind, hard in the wall. His car 5.9, he gets passed up by Scott Myers, passed up by Traber Burns, passed up maybe by Wyatt Roberts this time. And yes, car 42 goes on by as the 46 gets all squiggly wiggly out of turn 2. Big save from Scott Myers. And Levine will slot in. Our top 2 have broken away. Addison Cook nowhere to be found in the top 3. He's going for it, though, on Brandon Marshall. No opportunity just yet for the 07. And I hate this situation for Addison. He clearly has pace. 17 laps led, started from pole position. Struggling a little bit on the longer run. But he really has no mathematical opportunity to punch his ticket to the Final 4, despite making every single race. Tyler Langenberg just has just enough of a gap to hang on to that spot with the lower car count. And Tyler's just getting, goes by the 59 car of Levine, who saves it through 1 and 2 only just. But Tyler's just taking care of business. Doing what he needs to do, just run this race cleanly, get through it, and focus up on Southern National. He runs 8th spot, as now the 07 has been swallowed up and taken for the 4th position. Maybe. It's not decided just yet, and he actually powers back ahead of Traber Burns. But it's tightening up between these two, and Burns had the spot for a lap or so. Side by side once again, and sure enough, there goes Traber back through. Addison, though, back down to his right rear, trying to take the spot back away. Has it into turn 3. But I think the 541 is going to win in this fight. I don't know how long Addison can keep this up on the top side of the racetrack. You can absolutely defend up there, but how long can he last? Meanwhile, if you're Scott Myers, you just want somebody to win the fight, so you can try to follow them through and take that spot away and move into the top 5. And sudden change for the race lead imminent between these two. A couple of yellow numbered street stocks working around the Myrtle Beach Speedway. Sukup went up in the center of the corner there. Shucker reacted, pounds the outside wall down the front stretch. And he's going to have to settle for second position here on lap 49. It's 16 to go. Next time by the stripe. And that might have done it for the 45 car. Unless we get a caution, I think Travis Sukup just made the winning pass. And there is still plenty of opportunity for a caution. Look at this gaggle behind. This is 3rd through 7th. Brandon Marshall, Traber Burns, Scott Myers, Wyatt Roberts, all in a line. Then you have Tyler Langenberg and Joey Tackett very close together. And Tackett actually is going for a pass into turn 1. That just might work out, as we've got connection issues ahead for the 42 car this time. Wyatt Roberts. And he's back. Here we go. Traber Burns, the inside of Brandon Marshall. An opportunity here maybe for a caution flag that would help the 48 big time. Burns going to take 3rd spot away and power off of turn 4. He's making some big time headway. In fact, his last lap was right on par with the race leaders. Addison Cook now gets back by Brandon Marshall. Or maybe not. 71 took the spot back for a moment. Everything kind of changes at a turn 4 there. And Addison has got the 71 car cleared. Marshall now trying to defend over the 46. We'll see how long that's able to last. Brake rotors aglow. I think the 71 is going to fall back here to the 7th position, if not lower. Still work to do, though, for Scott Myers to get that spot. And it looks like he'll take it away. Kevin O'Hara goes for a pass on Jack Gunsit. This just about a corner ahead of our race leaders. On board, inside the helmet with Zach Shucker. You've got the delta on the bottom right. That's the time from the 48 car to the 45 for the race lead. And they are closing on lap traffic, but not drastically enough to where I think it's going to be a big impact in this race. Those two, by the way, have now separated, and yeah, there's wall contact for the 48 car. I think that might be it. This stage of the race, this stage of a run, the tires are just worn out. And if you don't have anything left, unfortunately, you're not going to find anything without a caution flag. Traber Burns, big props there. Now through to the 3rd position. Could be his first ever podium. Addison Cook to 4th spot. Just not enough that the 07 car could possibly do this evening. And unfortunately, as these laps dwindle down, he's going to have to accept 5th place in the championship at best. Jack Gunsit slow on the front stretch. 6 laps to go. This is the best opportunity of any without a caution that the 48 car is going to get. Travis Sukup approaching lap traffic. Travis missteps a little bit there out of turn 4. Wants to get by the 73 as efficiently as possible. 5 laps to go. And gets by Jack Gunsit pretty quick. Now Jack Gunsit going to sit right in front of Zach Shucker into turn 3. Who makes a move now to the inside in 3 and 4 and will still get by. Got a long ways, though, to go up to the 29 if Zach wants to use Kevin O'Hara for a pick. I don't think that opportunity will present itself easily. And now a pass there. Brandon Marshall losing another position. This time, Joey Tackett trying to keep that spot. Side by side, they still go. This could be a chance for a caution. Who knows? Two burger cars side by side, and now Marshall loses the fight. Two laps to go that time by. Popsicle sticks in the air for Travis Sukup and Zach Shucker. 29 at the racetrack that time, but is anything going to be enough to upset the 45 at this stage in the race? White flag is out, brought to you by Whiplash Sim Cams one more time around at Myrtle Beach Speedway in race 15. It's been easy going. As soon as he got to the race lead, Travis Sukup was off and away. He's got one more lap car to deal with. That's Kevin O'Hara, but it's going to be a win down in South Carolina for Travis Sukup out of turn 4. Checkered flag, car 45. And your final 4 have been set. David Levine trudges across the start-finish line, a little bit under the weather maybe, not his usual self. And it's a race win for car 45. Travis Sukup be able to celebrate, but won't actually do any burnouts on the front stretch. Zach Shucker will bring the car around and come to a stop. No celebration, though. There's Trevor Burns, Joey Tackett working down the pit lane, Kevin O'Hara as well. No celebration out of the race winner. That might be a first this season. But props all around to car 45, car 48, car 541. All did a great job and bring it home in the top 3. Finishing first place, though, Travis Sukup with the race win. 7/10 of a second back to Zach Shucker. When that run was said and done, he was able to get away and never look back. In the rearview mirror, Trevor Burns finishes 3rd. Addison Cook, Scott Myers wrap up your top 5. A look there through the rest of the top 10. Notables deeper down in the field, Tyler Langenberg and David Levine for sure, but they will be fighting for a championship next week at Southern National Motorsports Park. And Travis Sukup is back to some winning ways. A win at Myrtle Beach. That's not so easy to get. It's also not so common these days, Travis. But a win nonetheless. 20 laps led. Once you got to the lead, you powered away. But how did you specifically get to the race lead?
I just tried to stay there and wait for him. He was pretty quick, so I had to have him mess up if I was going to try to do anything.
Pretty clean and green after the stage caution, but a lot of this race actually went green flag. It came down to rubber on the car. How did you make sure that you pushed enough in the early goings to stay with guys and not fall back, but also conserve your tires and make sure you were there in the back half of the run?
I guess I just got lucky. I was actually trying to go pretty hard the whole time. At 48, I think it was a 7. They were pretty quick the whole time.
Well, Travis, good to see you back in the field. Hopefully we see you at Southern National in a week's time, and congratulations on a win here at Myrtle Beach.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Appreciate what you do.
Good to see Travis back with us this evening. Zach Shucker, though, maybe not so happy to see car 45 in the lineup. Zach, you had to chase the 45 there at the back end of the race. You started 2nd, got by the 07 somewhat easily, and then it was a fight for the win there after the stage break. What was going on for you under the helmet?
Not a whole lot. Just angry with the fact I still haven't upgraded my steering wheel more than anything. Just that the steering wheel's got a big dead zone, so on occasion I mess up corner exit a lot and can't get up by the wall, and I got into the wall once, which actually let the 45 get inside of me. Other than that, I think we were pretty equal. I would have liked to see what it was like if I didn't make that mistake, but hey, he did a good job. He kept it clean, so there's no complaints there.
Well, position number 2 this evening, while it might not be what you wanted, will confirm you as the points leader going into this Final 4 cutoff, which I know might be a little bit bittersweet, but that means you're set back to 0, equal chance as David Levine, Tim Georgia, and now Tyler Langenberg to win the championship next week. How do you approach that kind of situation?
practice ahead of time, unlike what I've done every other race so far. I didn't even have Myrtle Beach until about 8:36 Eastern time tonight, so never turned a lap, just bought it, went and ran. We've raced Southern National in the late model, so I got a good idea of what it's going to be like. I got my ideas of setups to try, similar tracks and stuff like that, but we'll actually turn some laps ahead of time and see what we can do. I know a lot of other people will be trying to get their first win if they only don't have one, or get another one if they do have one. Somebody like Sean, I expect to be pretty good next week. I know he's down at a IndyCar test tonight, so he didn't join us.
Well, Zach, good to see you, and maybe some of that North Wilkesboro winning speed rubbing off on a bumpy, worn-out track again here this evening. Congratulations, P2. Congratulations on being the points leader here in the back end of the season, and we'll see you next week with an opportunity to win the championship.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate everything you do with the broadcast, as well as Elevated Performance for letting us come out and play. So we'll have one more good week, hopefully.
Absolutely. That one last race to go, Southern National Motorsports Park next week. Sounds like Zach will be putting in some extra practice, and maybe this guy will as well. Traber Burns getting closer and closer to that top spot. Nearly there this evening, Traber. Is there maybe a way you can get there next week at Southern National, the high-banked mixing bowl in Lucama, North Carolina?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's just been had a lot of just slow, steady improvement in my pace so far. All credit goes to all the LMS guys. You know, David, Melvin, Zach, Tim, all those guys. They're always helping me out just with my driving style. I'm quite new to iRacing, so yeah, all those guys have just been coaching me ever since I joined this league, and it's been a blessing.
New to iRacing, new to LMS, new to this group of drivers, and I'm sure even newer to Oval Racing. You come here by way of the Lucky Dog Racing League, I hear, which means you're, of course, one of our West Coasters, Northwest. We don't have many of those. But then you make this whole switch over into Oval Racing. Has that been a challenge, especially against some of these guys that do that way more frequently for maybe way longer?
Yeah, so the funny thing is I started racing, period, on... started, of course, on like NASCAR 15 and all those Xbox games, but most of my racing has actually been on GTA. So, not the most realistic thing. And of course, it was always, we did a lot of mixed oval racing, road racing, so I don't think there's really an oval racing kind of problem there. It's just, you know, experience with the street stocks are just kind of weird to me. You know, I'm mostly running the NASCAR, 3 national series. But yeah, it's been a good season so far, and I'm liking the way I'm seeing my improvement with these street stocks, that's for sure.
Tons of improvement this season from the time you joined us now to race 15 of 16, finishing 3rd place, maybe a couple spots higher next week, who knows. By the way, you mentioned NASCAR 15. You want to know where Pit Stop TV originally began?
Dang.
Pit Stop TV has roots tracing back to NASCAR 14 even. You could even say NASCAR the game Inside Line, which is a big throwback. But it's, you know what? It's good to talk to somebody else who made their way into sim racing by virtue of the ETX NASCAR games. Traber, it's good to finally talk to you.
Yeah, good to be here.
Traber Burns coming to us by way, in some way, of NASCAR 15, which of course is one of the console titles that we trace back to through some ins and outs, but it's pretty cool. Good to talk to Traber finally. And, well, David, if you go back and watch, we were going to grab you and talk to you briefly as well, but David has bugged out for the evening, as he will be one of our other title contenders in a week's time. Let's even grab another one that we can actually talk to briefly, who was in the race. Tyler Langenberg, 9th place. Probably didn't expect to be hearing my voice at this point in time, Tyler, but you're fighting for a championship next week, Southern National. How do you approach that?
I really like that track. I mean, we did them in the late model stock, even though I didn't have the results I wanted back then, but hey, I'll take it.
And of course, Martinsville last week, a detour from your more consistent approach to this season. Is there anything you can do to avoid the calamity that I'm sure will ensue next week?
Pure luck.
Pure luck.
That's about it.
I like it. Not far off.
I mean, I'll be completely honest, it was kind of luck for me to get into the championship 4 anyway, so yeah.
Have you done any testing yet for Southern National?
No.
Well, I think that's about the same for everybody. Tyler, good to talk to you.
I'll be honest, I bought the track tonight like an hour or two before, because I didn't have it before, so I wasn't particularly a big fan of this track, so that's kind of why I had a little bit of a struggle tonight.
Well, you're still able to cement your way in. A whole lot of great runs throughout the course of the season. I'm sure we'll be talking to you next week.
10-4. See ya.
Heather Langenberg, car number 91. One of the other Championship 4 drivers. When we go to Southern National in a week's time, there's not much updating that needs done to this graphic. Tim George is still clinched into the Final Four, along with David Levine and Zach Shucker by way of this race. They're already clinched in after Martinsville last week. Same almost for Tyler Langenberg. He just about had it, and now officially has that last position in the championship race. Next up, we of course head out to Southern National. I've said it a million times. One more race to go, and we will crown a champion in these street stocks February 27th, 2024. And that will be it for this long 16-race season that traces all the way back to October 10th at the super speedway of this series, Charlotte Motor Speedway. A big shout out to our partners here at the channel, Whiplash Media, SimCams, ATVO, CC's Bees. Let's take a brief look at what's upcoming for us at Pit Stop TV. Next up, it's out to Talladega Super Speedway, that brand new track logo that I've been talking about. Yes, it's making an appearance tomorrow. Race number 4 for the SARG Super Speedway Series, brought to you by Sunwest Construction. Thursday evening, then, it's out to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway for the Sarah Pierce Fleet Service Super Series. That's a tongue twister for sure. Sarah Pierce Fleet Service Super Series. 6 words for that series title. They're heading out to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway with super late model. Should be a bunch of fun on 2/22 this Thursday evening. And Tuesday, we go to Southern National Motorsports Park, February 27th. In between there, on Sunday evening, we will be live. We will have a broadcast. It's just to be determined within the next 24 hours or so, actually. So when you tune in tomorrow night, you will know what we're broadcasting on Sunday evening. And that'll do it for us this evening. Thanks so much for tuning in. It has been a pleasure as always. Make sure to follow along on social media, of course. And a big shout out to the groups that make these broadcasts possible behind the scenes in audio: ATVO, Whiplash, SimCams, OBS, and iRacing.com. For everybody here at the channel and all of our associated groups, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.